scope of what you want to talk about, but I presume there's different areas within the palm, or is the whole thing
The whole
desire?
palm, the whole
The whole
palm.
palm.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We might take it deeper. There is a deeper layer to it, which is starts to be like the trigger points and things in the area, where that's where you start to see differentiation between the desire and the different kinds of desires. Like for example, there, or if like you're in the back, you're looking at something, and there's a certain kind of stimuli that's there, but then you go and start going deeper, the trigger points will be a little bit more specific to what's happening, because really what you're doing is you're treating the somatic nerves, which is your voluntary nervous system. Like, so it's what really interacts with your mind a lot. So when you unwind these things in your body, you're really shifting your mind to more of who you naturally are, rather than who you've become because of trauma or conditioning or injuries, or whatever. And so it's a harder approach. I think I told you guys, like, quite a while back, like, I used to be somebody who they would pay me to do research and come up with approaches in different modalities, and then I would just sell them the rights to the information. And so three different groups approached me about, like, working out the psychosomatic mechanisms, because they wanted to present something in a textbook. And when I started to go down the rabbit hole, I was like, this isn't going to work. Like, I was always aware of it, but I didn't do like a super deep dive. But the issue is, it's it's like what I said before. It's very different than how we think of psychology, in normal everyday terms. Like, psychology is really a kind of a new discipline, and there's a lot of validity to it, but there's also pieces that I don't want to say are missing. It's just like different facets and different approaches. And I couldn't, like, I was really happy with what we figured out about psychosomatic stuff, but I couldn't make it fit into like the normal everyday psychological model. And so I
Hmm.
basically just gave them their money back and said, and this isn't going to work. Like it will work, but it won't work the way you guys want it to work. And I kept all that research for myself. Like, I was like, it's valuable information, but nobody's going to take it and run with it. Like, it's most people think it's more in the emotion in the mind, and it's really more in the nervous system, the endocrine system, and the immune system, and really your blood. Like, it's very physiological, and that physiology really makes up more of the normal person's everyday mind, versus somebody who starts to do healing or spiritual practice or meditation. They start to move beyond some of those parameters. But for the like, if you just walked outside and looked at people on the street, it's more physiology than it is psychology. And that's what I was doing with that osteopath. Is we were treating psychological issues as physiological issues, even structurally. We'd treat things structurally to change their psychology. And we were getting such good results, he freaked out and was like, I'm going to be the laughing stock of my industry. And I was like, dude, you're going to be cutting edge. And he's like, no, I'm not ready for that. Like, it was too different than what he was doing,
Hmm.
you know. But in spiritual circles, and the kinds of things that we do, um people are very open to stepping out of those things, because really they're not caring about sticking to a modality or a philosophy. They just want to feel better. They just want to be better. They just want to be more of who they are. They just want to be like not in so much pain, be it physically or psychologically, or be able to function better, be more successful, whatever it is. They just want results. And so in that circle, it's much easier to teach. Like it's much easier to teach. You just still have to break out of a little bit of the normal psychology and even some of the normal like new agey things. So that's why sometimes I was like, let's not talk about it right now. Let's just have an experiences because it would trigger too much of what's already a philosophy that people are addressing. And so it's like have the experience and then we'll talk about it after the fact. And because then it doesn't trip up the mind as much. But
Right,
we've done
right.
that for quite a while. And so like I'm super ready to talk about details. I've been so excited about this body mapping coming to the public that I'm like uh I kind of almost lose my mind sometimes. I get so excited.
No.
I know. Like it's
So the fact that I have a different perception of energy in different parts of my palm is not related to this. It's something else.
it's probably more the trigger points. Yeah, like
Okay.
trigger points. Like, is it like even when I look at my palm, um, different areas feel different ways, and you could break it down a little bit. But bottom line, when you're boiling it down, it's not so much about the story of like how the mind processes it. It's just like a trigger. It's like a light switch. It's on or off. As we go deeper into it, there is more components to it, but still the body mapping that we've done doesn't go away. It just gets more refined, like you could say.
Okay. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
You're so welcome. How did you like the body mapping? You said you were sad. Did something stir up, or I know you said some stuff over the weekend, but
Yeah, I don't know if it was related to that. I don't think so. I think it's just, all the stuff going on in the world and
yeah,
some some of it close to home. But
yeah,
there was one point, I think it might have been the advanced expedited piece at the end using the violet
yeah,
flame, and you were talking about everybody being peaceful, and I'm like, no, I'm super agitated.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, even there, like sometimes it helps you to realize like I need to take action. Like like this here like I go back to again going to work with that group of psychologists, and I was doing the thing with them, and then I was also doing a research project for pranic healing way back in the early days. And so what we did is I don't know, I think we had like 25 subjects or 50 subjects who were doing kind of a small scale thing because there was just me and a couple other healers and a psychologist. And what we did was we brought in people who had, some sort of an issue, right? And we'd have them fill out the standard psychological evaluation form that was of that particular discipline, because psychology has all these different like kind of subcategories, and I can't remember which one we were using, but we were using one of them. And so we'd have people fill this out, and then we'd do a little interview with them, and then we'd do, I think it was like 3 months of therapy once a week, and then we'd go back through and do the evaluation, the same form, same everything, all the questions were the same, everything was the same. And so it was really kind of shocking because we did the 3 months of therapy, and then we had them fill out the form, and then when we were going through and evaluating based on the form, that I had them fill out, um, on paper, they all looked like they were doing worse. And when we were evaluating them, I was like, oh, this is shocking. Like, I didn't see this one coming. And so, we went to the interview component, and I was like, boy, I just don't get it. And when we started doing the interview, people were like, yeah, I'm a little bit upset. Yeah, this is going on. I've been in this situation for 20 years. Like I've been in a job that I hate, and I have a boss that's borderline abusive, and I'm stepping up. I've turned him into into, you know, his boss or whatever, like they were taking action. And I'd go, but you're miserable doing it. They go, no, this is good. This needed to happen. I'm happy about it. It's just a little bit uncomfortable. But it was like the interview was more of like what we thought was going to happen, where like people were going to feel better. Because we even think like, oh, you do healing and I feel better, but I'm still in this difficult situation. That's still coming from a point of view of the state of mind. You know, it's still not taking action. And if you kind of refine the state of mind a little bit, then like how we talk about the three brain, they start taking different actions. And the different action was, yeah, this thing at work, it's going to stop. I've been in a marriage that the person has been doing all these horrible things, having affairs. Yeah, I'm done with that. Like, so they were making changes, and it might be that it was a little bit upsetting, but it was organic. It wasn't that somebody talked them into it. It's almost like it came from the inside out, and they were just resolving it in the way that they wanted to resolve it. You know, nobody told them you should do this, you should do that. It's just like, you know, how you'll be doing something and you're like, I'm inspired to do something different. It was like they were inspired to do something that was very, very different. And we waited another 3 months and we went back and we did the interviews and we did the paperwork, and at that phase the paperwork reflected that they were much happier, much more content, much more whatever, because they had gone through and remedied something, changed something, walked away from something, but they were inspired to take some sort of action. And at that 3 month mark, it wasn't it wasn't all butterflies and rainbows yet. Like they could see the butterfly and rainbows, but they're like, I still have to walk across the field to get there. The field is full of dog poop and bees. You know what I mean? It's like not a good one, but like I can see where I'm going. And I mean that is really in a nutshell this thing between the state and the function, or what we're calling three brains, whatever version of that you want. It's when we're coming from the logical mind, we're always just wanting to maintain something and then feel better about it. And you know, even back in the day, I would have these conversations with a psychologist that I was like, they're in a horrible situation. I don't know that we should help them feel better, because it's that idea that like sometimes like with an alcoholic, you have to let them hit rock bottom so they take action. If you keep making them feel better in something that they're miserable in, they're just going to prolong their misery and not take action. And so maybe we should help them like realize how uncomfortable they are or how miserable they are, that so that they can take action. Because really we want them to feel better, we want them to be happier, we want them to feel joy in their life, we want them to, not because of what we think they should have, but that they're inspired to cultivate the thing that they want. And if we keep doing therapy when they're in not a good place, we might make them feel better just enough to maintain that and never take action. And so the approach has always been there's a little bit of soothing and then a little bit of unwinding this so that there is more like function happening. And when the person's ready, they take action. You know, it's not something that you have to force. Um it's something that is kind of natural and organic in the approach. And a lot of times it wasn't a change like my husband's been a jerk and I'm going to leave him. It was my husband's been a jerk and I have to tell him, look him in the eye and say, when you do that, that really hurts my feelings. And then they could have a better relationship, but they wouldn't ever take the action to sit down and say something uncomfortable with the husband. The husband really, like, I'm thinking of this one particular person, and the husband really loved you know, his wife, but at the same time, he was doing something that was a little bit obnoxious, and it was just like his upbringing, right? And so when they talked it out, he was like, "Oh, I had no idea." And after they had that talk, he just stopped. And if it flared up, she'd go, "You're doing it again." And he was like, "Oh, sorry, autopilot." And then, you know, they go back to it. And so um sometimes a little drop of discomfort is the price we pay to improve our life sometimes. You know what I mean? And so like
Yeah,
sometimes when what's that?
the hammer has found the nail. I will check back
Right.
with you for 3 months.
Yeah, exactly. Like you just, you know, I can think of things like from my youth that I say youth like 20s, 30s even, where had I gotten a little bit of comfort in it at the time, I'd be miserable right now. Like I'd be miserable because I wouldn't have said I've had it, Because even when I would get comfort in it, it didn't feel the comfort didn't feel real. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I feel good, but that thing's still there. Where like sometimes you just have a bad day, it's like, I gotta shake the day off, or a bad month. Like, I just gotta shake the month off. But when there's something just like poking you, like almost the more you relax, the more you realize it's poking me, you know? And so my rule of thumb, I don't know about for other people, but my rule of thumb is when I'm laying down to relax at night and to go to bed, that's like kind of when I get like the truer what's bothering me, what's not bothering me, because I don't have the distractions. So I lay down and start letting the mind drift, and it's like, oh, I'm thinking about that situation. I'm thinking about that person. Where during the day, I was able to distract myself.
Yeah,
But
it's
then when I
easier to
lay,
fill the pokes at night.
yeah, yeah, it's super easy to fill the pokes at night. So here's the interesting thing. I'm sorry I'm going on a tangent here, but it's like I find it a very interesting subject. So, we went through and we did the body mapping. The body mapping takes um, cleaning the chords, both negative chords and dirty chords, to a much higher degree. Like it's like cleaning and releasing chords, releasing attachments on steroids. The part about even the chords attaching or forming is, that part with the seven planetary cycles. The more you work those seven planetary cycles, especially the one that's of your birth sign, um, when somebody's angry at you, when somebody's hostile at you, it almost is like you can feel the energy, but the chords don't form because for the chord to form, something's projected to your body, and then your body responds. And it's a lower emotional part. It's the what we are calling body mapping. Like it's something gets triggered and then it responds. And so those seven planetary things that we did, it's much more involved in the advanced stuff, but it's still getting the ball rolling. Um, it changes how your body responds to those things, and you'll just feel like, oh, they're angry, but your body doesn't respond, your emotions don't respond, your mind doesn't respond. It's just like, yeah, I just gotta wait for 15 minutes, and the anger that they projected at me will just wash off me. Like it just releases off. And even in pranic healing, like Master Cho would talk about, like when you do healings at the end, you cut the cord and release. And he says, but at a point, you don't have to cut the cord because when you're done, it just releases. Like it just releases because I can't remember if he says like the healer is in a more peaceful state or is more developed. He just makes some little quick little comment, but basically it's that aspect in the upper emotional body has been developed enough to where the cords from other people stop like mattering. Like they just don't matter anymore. Like they just there's some contamination if somebody's energy body is really really strong, or if you're really super close to somebody, but even then it's diminished quite substantially. And the good side of that as well is because it's developing higher emotions, you're also emanating things out of like more of the good permanent chords where the people around you, where you know, family, friends, loved ones, where you have those more permanent chords, they're not feeling your stress. They're feeling a kind of love come through those chords that actually help them, affect them, help them to shift, help them to change. So the body mapping thing at first is about you, but then eventually it becomes about affecting the people around you just because you're connected. That's it. Like not having to do a technique. You just think happy thoughts about them, or you just, you know, think neutral thoughts about them sometimes, and it does it. I find it fascinating, actually.
Thank you for all that.
Yeah.
And do we only develop cords to other beings, or do we also have them to
No, you
situations?
into it.
To situations.
Yes. Old events, memories, situations, um,
So,
and sometimes with a mind that projects a lot, which is most of us, like, you know, um, you're creating like an event or a situation in your mind that's in the future that sometimes you'll actually cord. You know, it's very unconscious, but it's because you're trying to make it happen. And you know, haven't you ever had like an interaction with somebody that's like you had a conversation, you're like, I don't know what they're thinking or what they're saying. It's like we're talking about two different conversations. One person is in like courting a future event, like that it's reality, and it's not. Like they're not processing what's happening in the here and now. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
it does. And I was thinking about the incident Saturday, and I feel like I just didn't court it. I didn't feel, I mean, I'm
No,
still amazed that I didn't get
we talked
freaked out
about that
about it.
for a while after class.
I just,
I was like, did you hear how calm Barbara was when she went down the wrong side of the road? And like most people would have flipped out and had a meltdown. And you were like, yeah, I just was, you know, it was a little upsetting, but like you just were talking about it like you had a bad sandwich at lunch or something. You were like, yeah, it wasn't very nice. It was very good. It was, you know, could have been better. It was just really like matter of fact. But
so I feel the energy rising as you talk about it. But in the moment,
mhm,
I was, yeah, I was so struck that I wasn't panicked.
yeah,
I was clear-headed and thought I need help getting out of this situation, and it happened.
yeah. And so I think the thing is like the more aware you are sometimes, like even though you got out of the situation, sometimes we have a realization of like the potential of that situation. Even though everything's fine, it was like, oh, that could have been ugly. Like that could have been, you know, a bad car accident. That could have been this, that could have been that. And sometimes like the thing how we were just talking about like a potential or a future event, it's like we'll have a realization, but even with doing the three brain thing, you're like, but I didn't. Like, you know, I could have, but that's what bad experiences do to us is we like something bad happened. So then you think of all the things that could possibly happen, and then your brain starts going, we need a strategy, we need a philosophy, we need a way to keep this out. And so the mind becomes a little bit more rigid. So even when that comes up, like you get stirred up a little bit, but like just observe it and you go, okay, like bad things could happen, but it didn't. And doesn't mean that I go rushing and driving down the wrong side of the street all the time, but just because something happened didn't mean that it was super bad. It was just a thing. And you know, you just kind of let it pass. Like, you know, you go, I need to be a little bit more careful maybe, or even that I'll just like go, you know, because like sometimes when I come out of clairvoyance and if I have to drive, uh you know, because like if I'm writing a lot, like the clairvoyance will increase. I have a hard time with doing the same kind of thing, like driving down the road, seeing where the road goes, you know, the depth perception of lights and things will change. And then when the clairvoyance turns off, I'm fine. But like when I'm in that state, I'm like, okay, I'm in that state. I recognize it for what it is. I have to be a little extra careful right now. Like not across the board, like a philosophy of I need to do this and that. It's just like I need to pay a little bit more attention. And you know, we even have this thing to where if I'm the one driving, Samantha will say, okay, you got to turn left here or whatever, just so that my mind stays on the task rather than, you know, spacing out and just kind of driving wherever I'm going. And so it's good to recognize where your mind is at so that you can behave like appropriately, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Is it reasonable to attribute the fact that I stayed calm to the three brain practice,
Oh,
or?
yeah, totally.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, we were
Okay.
like that, like she was doing three brain in the moment. Like, and see, you didn't have to sit and do the technique first. It's just your mind was like you had a reaction, you had a feeling, and you had a thought process. They all kind of harmonized. You handled it very quickly and very easily. Where especially that one, usually the instinctive response would flip us out. We'd get triggered, we'd get super reactive. Um, you know,
I was
we
aware
do.
in the moment of how calm I was and kind of
Yeah.
surprised by it, but grateful.
Usually if that's not regulated, we start making really bad decisions very quickly.
Yeah.
So you
There
you
was a
did
split second
amazing.
of I should do this, and it's like, no. Um, and then
Yeah.
it was clear again. But
Yeah.
okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, good for you.